Hello coders. So in this video, we are going to have a discussion on comments that is used in C. So what is a comment? So comments are used to make our code easier to understand. For example, we have a software that have multiple lines of code, maybe thousands and lakhs of lines are there in the code. So it's not easy to understand. So with the help of comments, we can understand the code without using debug statements and anything like that. Okay, so there are two types of comment. One is a inline comment. That comment is very small, like we have to define some very small thing in our code. Then we can use a inline comment, and if we need more description of that part, then we need a multi-line comment. Okay, so as you see in this code, so for example, if I write here initialize the value of distance. Okay, so this way we can comment in our code depending on that single line, then we can use this comment. Okay, so we can define it like this as well. So initialize the time. Okay, so this way also we can use a inline command. So how can we use a multi-line command? So for example, in inline command we have forward slash, two forward slash are being used. But if we use forward slash along with this, so this consists of a multi-line command. Okay, so here if I write initialize the time in seconds. Okay, so you have seen this comment is used within two lines, and there can be multiple lines depending on our users. So this is the second part of a comments, that is multi-line comment. Okay, so we'll make use of this types in this code itself. So we'll see how it happens. So before that, there are few best practices of using comments in our code. So the first one is you should be very clear in writing the comments. Okay, so it should not be confusing for the reader who is reading that code, because you are not the only one who is reading that code. So that code can be read by millions of developers throughout the open source if you are putting it in. So next point is explain why this function is required rather than what it is. Okay, so we should explain in such a way that that function, why it is required there, and what is its usability as we see the full engine of that app. Okay, so the point here is we should not tell, like if you have a function like calculate speed. So we should not write that this function will take A and B and give C. Rather than we should write as a command like how this function is being utilized throughout the code. And if this function is not here, what will be the possible outcomes? Okay. So that way we have to think in our mind when we are defining any command. Okay. So we should avoid the obvious command. For example, in here, in the below example, as we write that initialization of the value of distance, this is self-explanatory. So this meant is just for the reference, so we should not use it like this. Okay, so we'll delete these comments because these is obvious that we are defining the variable distance with 6.7 value. Okay, so the third thing, the third best practice is put the to do work whenever required. Okay, so when we are reading or going through the code, and if we see like some function needs some enhancement, so we can mark that comment over to that area, so that the next developer or you itself when sees this code again, you try to fix it or enhance the that thing. Okay, so we'll see all these best practices in our code itself. So we should write our commands in English only, okay, so that other developers can also understand, because English is a worldly language, and we can have multiple countries that is using this English as a common language. So we should also define our function. Okay, we should define the input, output, and the return type of the function, so that the other developers can understand what this function is and why it is here. Okay, so we should be stress on why it is here rather than what it is. Okay, so let's go to the code. So I wrote a simple code to check the speed of a vehicle whose distance and time is given. Okay, so here we have uh, declaring this distance as 6.7 kilometer, and here the time is 3.4. We have to calculate the speed. Okay, so here is one function that will calculate the speed. Okay, so they have distance and time as the input, and it is returning the speed. Okay, so that all are in float values. Okay, so next we are putting a check on this. If speed is -1, it means speed cannot be -1. Okay, so this is wrong. Okay, else the speed of the car is being printed. Okay, so how we make use of comments over here? Okay, so the first thing is we can define comment here, like calculating the speed of the vehicle. Okay, this is the inline command that is I am giving here. Okay, so it clearly defined that this function will calculate the speed. So it should not be anything that is not meaningful. Okay, so we should take care of this. Also, if we check here, the speed of the vehicle is compared. Okay, so this is a check. Okay, so we can comment here as well, checking the error cal calculations. Okay, so this is an error check which will check whether the speed is -1 or not. Okay, so this way we can comment over it. So next we'll see how we can use comments in case of the function, as you talk of a very big uh, app. Okay, so first we have a multi-line comment, then we'll have the brief, which will give you brief description of that function, what it does. So it will calculate the speed of the vehicle. Okay, then we have the description. It is a complete description what this function is doing. So this function will take the distance and time and put in the logic to calculate the speed of the vehicle. It also have the time check for the zero value and returning -1. Okay, so here I described what this function is doing. So you don't need to give all these values like time is zero and all the things. This is just for the reference. So main thing is we have to define the logic within this function that is churning out the data. Okay, So the next part is a parameter. So parameter one is of type. This is float. So we'll write here float. We can describe it as well. So what this value is. Next we have param second that will have float. Okay, same thing we can do here. And then is a return type. Return is float itself. So all the three things are float. So by giving this command over to the function, anyone can understand what this function is and what this function is doing actually. So by using this thing in our program, we can make this code easy to understand. So it's very helpful thing. So just make it a habit of doing this in your code. Okay. So that's all from my side. I think if you have any query, just post a comment. I will be happy to understand and reply to that. Thanks.